Okay, I think we should get started very soon. Yeah, look, shall we? Yeah, let's start. Okay, yeah, so once again, thanks everyone for joining in today. So as you all know, may have heard of, this month is actually a Migraine Awareness Month. And we also try to organize this get-together session for everyone in the migraine community to share the experience, and hopefully we can help each other to cope with migraine or to have more migraine-free days. I think that's the ultimate goals that we all want to have here. Yeah, and right now we have three speakers with us, Corinne, Joshisha, and Angela. Yep. How about we can start with Corinne first, since you are the time zone for you is like earlier. I don't know. I'm just saying something to have a reason to pick on someone who can start. Yep, Corinne, could you share more about yourself and yeah, with us, please? Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. So just a little round of introduction for now, Jess, or?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Good day, everyone. Kia ora. My name is Karen. I'm based in Auckland, in Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm a program manager in a diversity and inclusion consulting company. And yeah, I guess it's so great to be here, to be able to hear the experience of other fellow migrant warriors in here. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Yep, thank you, Corinne. Okay, how about Angela? Could you share with us more about yourself?
Hello, I'm Angie, and I am based out of Pennsylvania in the United States. And I'm a registered nurse by trade. And I have been suffering with migraines since I was 7 years old. So I've had them pretty much my whole life. And I am happy to report that as of today, I am 452 days migraine free.
Oh,
so
that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I finally cracked a little bit of the code on my body to kind of like figure it out, and I'm hoping to share that today too.
Yep. Thank you. Thank Angela. Okay. Last but not least, Joshisha.
Hi. Yes. I'm Trisha. I am based in Connecticut, and I am a former sports journalist, and migraine actually caused me to change my profession. Now I teach Pilates full time, and I'm eager to hear how Angie went 452 days migraine free, because I think I'm on like day 2.
Okay, that's great as well. Yeah. I can't wait to hear Angie's story as well. And yeah, you guys can see that we also have Francois had just sign into it. Yeah, so Francois is our company CEO, and he's actually the brain behind the migraine body, and he himself, have a personal experience with migraine as well. Yeah, so Francois, could you share a few words with us?
So, can you hear me properly? Or maybe I will use my mic. Yeah, if you can hear me without echo, so that's good. So nice to meet you. Myself, I'm occasional migrainer, so I don't know really what it is to have chronic migraine. Recently, I even got diagnosed with occipital neuralgia, which is also quite strange to get and quite difficult to handle with. So I'm very glad to be here with you. We've been working on migraine relief for the past, soon it will be 10 years. It's always a pleasure to hear when somebody managed to really get more days without any attack, any migraine. Would love to learn from that. I hope one day we'll manage to be able to share really the patterns, helping many of us in expanding this period without attacks, without hypersensitivity. We still have a lot of research to do, and today I would love to exchange more on the specific subject of migraine at work, also, both as an employee and as a as a CEO, which I hope I'm not too tough as a CEO, by the way. So that's it. I'll let you continue.
Yep, thank you. Thanks for sharing, Francois. Okay, how about we go back to Corinne? Yeah, could you share more with us, how you have been living with migraine and how does it affect your work and daily life?
Okay. I guess I've been having migraine since forever, but when I was a kid, I didn't know that this is migraine. I thought it's just headaches, but in a more severe way. And again, I guess when it comes to how migraine is affecting my life, work is one of the top on my list. Some days, and this is a lot of days, I couldn't focus at work while I have the post-stroke episode, the brain fog. After the migraine attack, some things lingers for a while, and for me, the biggest thing is the brain fog. So when this happens, I couldn't articulate myself well. Sometimes I just forgot completely how to talk normally, because English is not my native language. And during the post-stroke episode, it really is messing up with my linguistic skills, I suppose. So it is really embarrassing and stressing me out so much, having to come across as being unprofessional or unprepared, having to have that situation while I'm, giving out presentations or having to talk to my clients in the meeting. So yeah, that's one thing. I mean, other days during severe attacks, I just can't get any work done, because I can't get up from my bed at all, let alone having to sit in front of my computer. So many times I have to call in sick. And of course, this is messing with my workload. And I ended up stressing out about the deadlines, and feeling guilty doesn't help with, migraine attacks at all. Sometimes I also have no choice but to work overtime and ending up losing my sleep. And then the migraine attacks hit again. It truly works like an evil cycle, like migraine attacks, not able to work properly, ended up working past hours, stress, losing sleep, feeling guilty, all other mental stressors, and then migraine attacks again, and then, all those evil cycle. And then other thing is the stigma or the lack of understanding, I suppose, of migraine. Some people still don't really understand that migraine is not just a headache. And because of this, many times I just have to push through because I feel bad having to call in sick again and again, and then fearing that my coworkers see my migraine attacks as an excuse, I suppose. So yeah, that's another thing. And another thing is when people at work ask, oh, how's your week? How's your weekend? And then all I can think of is my migraine attacks. The new triggers I notice, different kind of reliefs I found working well. And it's a bit embarrassing. It feels like I don't have a life outside my migraine, but for me, it's kind of true because I have to work around my migraine cycle to make sure that I can live a normal life. So yeah, and also with this current situation, the COVID-19 situation, now I get to work from home most of the time. And in a way, this is good because I can avoid certain triggers at the office. The bright lights, the constant loud noises from time to time, and then the sun exposure because my desk at the office is next to like a big window facing south. So yeah, it's so good having to be able to avoid that triggers. But on the other hand, working remotely from home means more and more screen time for me. having this online meetings, online workshops, more report writings, and all those in front of my laptop. And I'm sure that we all know screen lights is not a good friend for migraines. So yeah, and I guess when it comes to how this affecting my productivity, like I said, I get slower at work sometimes, and other times I really have to miss out work. So yes, there are times when I don't really produce significant outcome at work, and I compensate by working past my work hours. And sometimes I ended up giving my coworkers a pile of works that they need to get done more than how it normally are, because it's kind of like delayed from my end. So yeah, I guess that's how migraine is affecting my career, my professional life at work.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Karin. It must been, not easy for you at all. But you know what? While you're sharing your story, I look at the chat and I see so many, people are supporting you, and I think they are feeling, the similar things as well. So yeah, I mean, that is what we are here for, like, together in the same community and then supporting each other. Yeah. So you mentioned that, some people think that, yeah, migraine is just like a kind of headache, and not many people truly understand the so-called the effect of having migraine attacks. So is there anyone at work, like how about your bosses, your co-workers, anyone like close to you that understand you and support you at work?
Yeah, of course. So part of the things that I do to deal with my migraine at work specifically is first to be honest with my manager. I just let my manager know that, oh, hey, I'm suffering from migraine attacks, and how it affects my body and my ability to get my work done. So I just be honest, giving them the heads up. And other than that, I also try to arrange my schedule and my workload so that I could get at least a decent balance between screen work and non-screen work. So for example, I tend to avoid back-to-back meetings or online workshops that require me to stare at my laptop screen for hours without breaks. And then another thing is I also am at least trying to let myself to be vulnerable in front of my coworkers and even my clients sometimes. So sometimes I choose to tell them that I'm in a terrible situation because of my migraine. So for example, if I am in my post-drome episode with my brain fog, I just tell them that, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm just coming out of a terrible migraine episode and I'm trying to work with a fuzzy brain right now. So excuse me. So I just tell them that sometimes. So yes, my line manager and my direct coworkers, they know vaguely about me having migraine attacks, and they are very supportive in terms of, oh yeah, just giving me the timeout during my migraine attacks. And yeah, they're very understanding in a way. But I guess that's another thing that I'm not too sure in how far I should share with them and how this actually affecting my life more than what I share with them. So yes, I hope that answered your question, Jess.
Yes, yeah, of course, yep. Okay, thank you once again. Thanks, Karin. Yep. So to everyone in the seminar, if you have any question to any of our panelists, you can drop a message in the Q&A section at the bottom left. I think the second icon from the right. Yep, is your Q&A. Yep, and then we can go through that at the end of the seminar. Okay, so let's move from New Zealand to USA. Angie, yeah. Hi, Angie. Yeah, could you share more with us about your experience with migraine? And you mentioned that you are a registered nurse, right? So do you also see a migraine patient coming into your hospital where you are working at?
Yeah, so I am a registered nurse by trade. And like I said in the intro, I've suffered with migraine since I was 7 years old. My dad passed them down to me, love him for that. And I didn't know ever what was going on. And I would just always see my dad growing up, like pretty much like laid out, and him trying to function. And he was a mechanic by trade. So him trying to function in his role and do his job. And then when I grew up with him, and I had him through school and college, and then coming into my career as an RN, it was really, really challenging to try as best as I could to take care of myself, but also take care of my patients as well. My clinical specialty was the operating room. And that's where I did like a bulk of my career, like 10 plus years in the operating room. And coworkers are just not nice to you. You have a schedule to keep, you have to keep a room going, go, 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 go. And when I would experience a migraine, a full-blown attack, as an operating room nurse, like I was either in a circulating nurse role, a scrub nurse role, I was helping surgeons, whatever. Like I was moving slower than normal. And I would try to relay this to my team members. Like I would just say like, I'm not feeling good today. My head feels like it wants to explode. And they're like, okay, whatever, who cares? Do what you got to do. That was kind of like the environment that sadly what I was in, and I had to function with that. I've had it to the point where I've had other nurses like try to write me up, like Angie's not moving fast enough, or she's not taking directions, and the OR is a really high stim. And I worked in neurosurgery, so I was already doing like brains and backs. And like they're really high stress cases to begin with, and you're so sensitive. Like my eyes were sensitive, and there's OR lights, they're very bright. So I had the eye sensitivity, I had smell sensitivity, I had hearing sensitivities, and in some cases, like my body would just tingle because I was so sensitive. It was the weirdest experience. But you have all these sensitivities going on, and you're nauseous, and you're moving slow, and you can't think straight, and you just are trying to function on not having your head explode. And sometimes even like I would try to like go out to like take one of my emergency medications to try to relieve my symptoms. And sometimes it just either didn't work or didn't work fast enough. So to function in my role, in my career, even as a nurse, taking care of other patients is really hard. So when I had a patient who either had a migraine coming in, and I've met them across the spectrum. I remember one patient I took care of in the OR, she had what was called a Chiari malformation. And so she was getting like chronic daily migraines. And Chiari malformation is like the opening in there's your opening in the back of your head where your brainstem goes down. That's like constricting. And so that can cause migraine. So I bonded with a lot of my migraine patients when I would learn about their backgrounds and like, hey, we're not alone. You're not alone. I understand what you're going through, kind of thing. But sometimes working and just trying to function in life. And I had chronic migraines. And so some months they would be chronic, so 15 or more, or some months they would be episodic. Episodic for me was like 10 to 12 at least, which is still kind of a high number. Like nobody wants to deal with one, let alone 12, 15 or so. My dad had intractable migraines where he would have them for months at a shot, which was really, really bad. And I was just like, oh, please don't give that to me. Like the chronic is bad enough. But sometimes I would start with one type of headache because there's more than just migraine. I've experienced cluster headaches. I've experienced the classic tension headaches. I've experienced the ones that go from the back of your head that start here and go forward. I've experienced different types of headaches throughout the course of my life. And most of the time, if I couldn't catch them, they would go into a full-blown migraine. So that was my experience. And then having to function on a daily basis, even in a healthcare role. In healthcare, as much as I enjoy what I do, and I'm actually out of the OR now. I'm in a different clinical environment. I teach and do research. And migraine is like one of my loves. So it's one of the areas that I try to stay on top of and learn more about. And like I said, from learning things about myself and just learning more about headaches and migraines, like I've finally been able to get myself to be 452 days migraine free, which is like a milestone for me, considering I've had them since I was 7 years old.
That's really great to hear, Angela. Yeah, and I'm sorry, but maybe I can check with Francois, because I see in the chat that he talked about some fastest relief drug for postrum. So yeah, maybe Francois, could you share?
I'm maybe you stop the mic. Yeah. So the I was actually just asking if somebody was interested about it. So we can come back to it after, but because yeah, I saw that it's a very commonly coming question. So Karin, you were mentioning the post-roam problem. I fully understand, and sometimes triptans are not really helping with that, because as we know, you have lots of side effects from triptans. They are usually the fastest to, I would say, knock down the worst part of the migraine, but they don't make you necessarily be very high functioning after that. And also because you're usually taking in only once the pain has started, and already at that moment you have many things happening which have post-room consequences after. And Angela, you were sharing about the fact that yeah, the speed of action, maybe there's also the predictability, because it's not always working. Or you can have what we can see for many of us is that at some point you don't know. You see that the migraine is coming here, but you take the drug which is usually working, and today it doesn't work. And that creates lots of unpredictability, which is very difficult to handle with the colleagues or for the team. Neurosurgery, I happen to know some neurosurgeon and have been in some operating room, and that's really a teamwork. If one person is not working at the same speed, is not perfectly connected with the rest of the team, that can be very challenging, right, Angela?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes it's great to like the neurosurgeons I work with were a great group of people, and they would answer my questions, but sometimes they were just not a very forgiving group of people, or the team I was around sometimes is just like it's a high stress, high stakes environment. And you know, you're trying to do your absolute best and not lose your stomach all at the same time. And yeah, so it's definitely one of the biggest challenges I've had to face, is trying to work with an active migraine attack.
Yes. And so what I was sharing in the comments is that we've been working with King's College, with people like David Dodick, Peter Godsby, Mayo Clinic, and we're on our way to finally publish papers on which drugs are in the real world getting the best results. I can just share a bit here, but feel free in the comments for everybody. If you think that this is an interesting subject we could share about, even outside of the research, we would be really happy. It's not necessarily well known, but you can, if you take a triptan together with naproxen, for example, it kicks in a lot faster. That's something that we see. That's why, for example, Treximet, which is sumatriptan plus naproxen, seems to have a faster, a higher outcome than any triptan taken alone. That's one thing that we're starting to observe in the data. We still need to search a lot more. And for patients people who are trying to have better cognitive capacity during the prodrome. It seems we started to do publications on that. It seems that the GPENs, so you may have heard of it, the new types of drugs which arrived on the market, Ubrelvy and Nurtec. It seems that those two, for many of us, are actually are slower to kick in, but they have also less side effects after than the triptan. So there is progress on that side. That's just an interruption. So let's come back to the stories, and feel free to put in the comments. I will not interrupt more on about that. Feel free to put in the comments that you're interested in. We could do another webinar on this specific subject about what we're observing, what is coming in with research. That's it. Sorry for the interruption, Angela.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Francois. Yeah, and Angie, I saw in the Q&A there is one question from Angela Lewis. Yeah, so she asked, what have you done to be, migraine free for so many days? I mean, 400 days is like more than a year actually. Yeah, so could you share more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I had to do was I had to completely overhaul my diet and stop eating. I completely cut out all refined sugars and processed foods. And it wasn't like an immediate fix. Like I learned about, I started learning more into foods and triggers and stuff like that in I'm trying to think what year it was, end of 2019. And that's when the week of Thanksgiving was the week I decided, hey, let's overhaul the diet, which was probably not a good idea, but I started cutting back sugars, refined foods, and started eating more organic and whole foods. And I noticed I went, my first ever, I went 80 days migraine free. And then I had a trigger, and then I got a migraine for like 2 or 3 days. And then like I did some tweaking again. And then I went almost, not quite, I went almost my first year. And then I had a trigger and I ate something I knew I should not have. Sadly, it was a cupcake. And it had sugars in it when my body had completely detoxed off of sugars. And I got a migraine for 2 days. And then ever since, so that was March of last year. And I have gone this far where I have not had to take any, I still have a emergency backup break glass if need medicine, but I have not had to use it in a really, really, really long time. So since last year. So for me personally, it was doing a complete extreme overhaul on my diet.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for sharing, Angie. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of all of those food with refined sugar. I mean, is really sometimes it's kind of hard for us to not so tempted to take them because it's unhealthy food, but it tastes good sometimes. So it's a lot of discipline and perseverance, to stay true to your regime and not taking on the food. Yeah, so it's really amazing what you have done. Yeah. Oh, Francois, yes, you want to chime in?
Maybe a quick remark on that. So sugar, clearly, this is the killer. I really believe it. We did not publish any paper on that, but I really believe it. And we are working also with some nutritionists. You may have heard sometimes of the Good Days program partners we have. I personally tried it. It was very, very difficult for me. I went to my own experience is that I really felt better by removing first refined sugars, but also sugar from fruit. I lived in Japan, for example, where you don't take that much fruit, and I was wondering, is it really that bad to take no more fruit? After I saw that, so not not every nutritionist will share this opinion, but overall, I saw that even stopping every type of sugar, even honey, even fruit, helped me in not being tempted again to take anything with that taste, or even fake sugar, aspartame, which is basically fermentation. That helped me also in not being tempted by the taste. And I could see very quickly that after that, I could see something sweet and not be tempted. That helped a lot. But it's still very, very difficult. And we see also with our partners that it's really helpful. We can see that people get better when they stop that as a first step. And when touching it again, boom, it seems to trigger very, very quickly. The other part is really to reduce the transformed food. So reduce the complex foods, go for products which are a lot simpler, where we know what are the ingredients, and that can really help many of us. The challenge, and I see a remark from Laura, is that we can also have our brain be used to it, and so when we stop some of those, we can have a difficult period where we can feel that we go down. If we take one of those foods we're really used to, and including some of the sugars, it gets back to normal. So we don't know at some point which is best or worst, and so on. A little bit like caffeine. Yep, I'm taking too much caffeine, and I know that if I stop it, in the same way that some of us, when we stop Excedrin migraine with caffeine, we will get a kick in and a new headaches coming up. Personally, if I stop caffeine cold turkey for 2-3 days, I will get 3 days of muscle pain. So it's a very, very complex thing to do. So really well done, Angela, on that. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Francois. Yeah, and just one last thing that I need from Angie, among us, I mean, many of us are trying to have more migraine-free days, and we are fighting against migraine as well. So as someone, I would say like a veteran warrior in migraine, is there any message sending out to everyone here?
Messages, yeah, I think that one of the biggest things I can convey is that there's hope. It is something you can overcome. It is something that you can lessen. I still get a hormonal headache every now and again, just because it comes with having a female cycle. But they don't go into the migraines, and I've learned how to kind of stop them. And if I had to like rate a pain scale to it, like they're just like one of those like little rumblers in your head. It's like a 2 out of 10 pain, and it's like you just deal with it and go on. And I can take ibuprofen and to really minimize them, but they can be cured. And it's just a matter of really learning your body and learning your triggers and trying to minimize them out of your life as much as possible. And the energy, like how you will feel, you'll almost be in like a flow state, like your energy you'll go back to being able to do things that you may not have been able to do. And there's freedom in that. So there is hope. And yeah, I hope that other people, and I'm my goal, I hope I can help other people through this journey.
Yeah, thank you, Angie. Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, there's always hope, and I think no matter how difficult the journey is, we just don't give up, and keep on fighting until we have more and more migraine-free days. All right, so before moving to the next speaker, I want to share that as a token appreciation for today, there would be a discount coupon code that would be shared at the end of the session. So stay tuned for that as well. All right, so let's go to Connecticut, USA. Trisha, yeah, could you share with us more about your migraine experience, the journey, and how you have been living with it?
Happy to, thank you. I was a sports journalist in newspapers and got what I thought was my dream job working for a major sports network, and switched over to television and had what I thought was the best job ever, watching football games with former football players and experts, and then making a TV show about those games. And I loved it. And I had episodic migraines at that point, and like Angie, like 10 to 12 a month, but I could manage them most times and didn't have to miss a lot of work. And then I had a car accident and my migraines became much worse. And if you have seen television programs or ever been in a television control room, it's the screens that I worked with, we had about 25 to 30 screens, and you're watching multiple games, you're watching interviews, you're watching what's actually we're putting out on the air. And so it was just an environment that I couldn't be around anymore, much less after having a car accident and having a concussion and knowing what that did to me. It really changed how I felt about football, which had always been American football, had always been my favorite sport. And I just didn't have that same passion for it anymore. And so I moved into what was more of a management role at the same network, and had a boss who just was not understanding about migraine and told me if I had a migraine, rather than what had been my protocol was to say, I'm dealing with a migraine, I'll be in, I'm sorry, my cats are under my chair there, that's the noise you're hearing. I'm dealing with a migraine, I'll be in as soon as I can, or if I'm hoping that the medication kicks in. She told me to just, if I had a migraine, not to come to work. It was too stressful for her to not know if I was coming into work that day or not. So that if I woke up with a migraine, I just shouldn't come to work. And so I ended up missing a lot more days and going on intermittent medical leave. And just, it wasn't a good experience anymore. And ultimately, I had been teaching Pilates part-time, and I was laid off from the sports network and went to just teaching Pilates completely full-time, literally the next day, which was helpful for migraines in that I'm not looking at screens all day, and I'm in more of a healthy, supportive environment. Thankfully, a lot of my clients have either dealt with migraines themselves or they know someone who's dealt with migraines. So if I have a migraine or if I have to cancel a session because I have a migraine, they've been really understanding. But at the same time, like Karen said, if I cancel a session, I'm not getting paid. So then I feel pressure to try to make up that session on the weekend, and then I don't have a weekend and I'm working every day. So there's a trade-off there. And I also don't have benefits as a Pilates instructor. So there's the stress of having to make enough money to pay for health insurance. And we've gone to more now a system of memberships where now if I have to miss a session, that client is still paying for the session. I'm not getting paid for it, but they are still paying their membership fee. So I feel this additional stress to be there for them, and that's not helpful. So I, like Karen, have tried to explain to people what I'm feeling so that they don't think that I'm just not paying attention or that I'm not as invested in them. I tell them that I'm I say words are hard. I just can't find words. And Karen, English is my first language, so you are not alone. I've tried to explain to people actually that I speak Spanish not well, not fluently by any means, but when I've been in situations where I've been speaking Spanish and I get tired, just not without a migraine, getting tired, it gets harder to process that language. I don't know if that makes sense for any of you who are bilingual. And having a migraine feels that same way, where it's like I'm having to translate everything that's happening around me, and I just can't do it fast enough because it's going through so many emotions in my head. So thankfully, a lot of my clients are sympathetic to that, and they're very kind about it. Unfortunately, my boss is not that she's an unkind person by any means. She just doesn't understand that a migraine isn't just a headache, and she doesn't understand that I can't always push through it as much as I try. So I often feel like I'm disappointing her, and then I feel that guilt of missing time at work or having to make up sessions. And so I really empathize a lot with both Karen and Angela, that needing to be there for other people and get out of a higher stress environment. And unfortunately, I haven't found quite the mix to get rid of my migraines. And I did have I have done on cleanses and gone, completely carb free, sugar free, caffeine free, alcohol free, all of the frees, and still had migraines. And so it's frustrating and it's hard. And thankfully, there are other people who understand and are supportive.
Yeah, thank you. I think, Francis, would you like to share?
So I can share a little bit as a CEO or as a manager, the point of view. My first, as you said, and many of you said that the first key point is that we feel guilty very often. Even myself, I'm reporting to a board, but I first feel guilty toward the team when I'm having a migraine. Working from home, I can hide it a little bit better. Here we have a room where we can isolate ourselves, which is quite peaceful. We are lucky to have also a very peaceful office. We can put some clutch on the head to hide the light. But yeah, the first thing is really predictability, because then suddenly when you have to cancel the meetings or the participation to the meetings, you know that everybody will potentially be impacted, be late, and that can feel very, very, very difficult. There's no magic solution here. It's trying to when we know that we cannot manage to completely eradicate the migraines, that it's part of us, a bit like for some people, I don't know if this is a good comparison, but who are facing depression or a bipolar, we know that there are ups and downs, and that the migraines are some of the worst down. It's about trying to be a bit more predictable, anticipating. So some of us are, I would say, lucky to have also premonitory signs that they can start to learn. So myself, quite often, I can observe the premonitory sign the day before, and I can start saying, okay, tomorrow probably we have to cancel some meetings. That can help a lot. Again, I hope we'll manage to find ways of helping more of us in anticipating those. But from the point of view also of the manager, what is very, very difficult is that you can feel guilty if you're having team member A and team member B, and you know that you want to treat everybody in the same way, but one is blocked by their migraine, by her migraine, and the other one not necessarily, and B has to compensate. What can you play on? Can you play on bonus? Can you play on salary increase? But salary increase is having a long-term impact. You also know that if you tell to the person with migraine that you're not happy, you're increasing the stress, and it goes into a vicious circle. So the first thing I would say, and I'm trying to do, is to be supportive. But we know that it's not enough. Just being supportive and nice. I mean, here in the team, everybody understands migraine, hopefully. But yeah, there is this balance between the message to the individual and the what is visible for the rest of the team. So I fully get it that it can be quite challenging, because at the end, for the team manager, it's about paying everybody's salaries. And if you have a board, it's even worse. It's managing the expectation of the board. So yeah, it can be difficult. One point really, I would say, because we're in, it's about managing teamwork. I really realized that over the years that it's more about predictability than amount of work. It's being able to balance and distribute the work and get people to help each other and reduce the emergencies caused by sudden surprise, which has become important. That's why, for example, 2-3 years ago, we decided to develop a module that we still need to improve a lot, but which is to let you anticipate when the attack will disappear, and when we'll be able to get back to normal and share that status to our relative or maybe to our other team members. I don't say it's perfect for now, far from it. We are working on the next version of it, but that was the idea. That was to create a little bit more of predictability, and it's a bit less stressful than being said, oh, tomorrow you will have a migraine, because it's about knowing when we will get back to normal. So one question I have is, work from home. We've seen that for many people, especially in March 2020, when it started, there was a period of adaptation. And we've seen that for many people, it actually made the things better at first. And after, it came back to normal. So would you say, Tricia, Angelique, Karin, that for you, work from home, so aside from the screen part, which is worse, would you feel that it improved or make things worse? Personally, I found that it was more difficult, because I've had days where I just became an ermite, just being completely bed, home office, bed, home office, and not enough light, and not going enough outside, not meeting real people. But how was it for you? Maybe Tricia first.
It's hard to say. I think because I wasn't working as much initially, because what I do is primarily in person. We did start teaching online, but I was also working probably about half-time instead of full-time. And I'd have to look back and look at my Migraine Buddy records to see exactly what my headache pattern was. But I think it was probably about the same for me.
Maybe Angela?
So for me, working at home is kind of more of an ideal situation. and I'm in a position, I'm in a job where I have that flexibility, where I can work from home. I either go on site or I can work from home. And if I didn't feel good, I can just shoot a message to my boss and say, I'm working from home today. And she's no questions asked. She's really good with it. When I was a staff nurse, and then eventually I became a nurse educator for an operating room. It was a little more difficult. You know, I had the experience where I had to go in, like, no questions asked, and try to deal with my day as best as I could. When it got to a point where I was getting sick on the stomach, that's pretty much when they would send me home. But now I'm in a position where it's actually nicer. Like, if I don't feel good, like, I can just close my laptop for a little bit and then just go stick an ice pack on my head, or on the back of my neck, and just like decompress, and go put myself in a dark room, or just put like blinders on for a little bit. Whereas I did not have that before. So I would have to say working at home is and having that flexibility has helped.
And no, surgery from home is still not an option, right, Angela?
No, no surgeries from home.
Okay. Karine?
It's really hard to tell. I think looking back at the records I just did, it's about the same. I think it's comparing working from home and working at the office, and I'm talking about 9-to-5 jobs here. It's quite different. It still gives the trigger, and it still gives me the ability to control the triggers differently. So in the office, I have more, like a more sense of time, if that makes sense, because I can see when everyone is going to the pantry to get their lunch. So it's like, oh, that's my cue. I need to get something. Or during the morning tea or afternoon tea, that, oh yeah, that's my cue. Whereas in working from home now, sometimes I just, oh yeah, it's 3 p.m. now. I I skip my lunch. Oh no. And then yeah, that it's also a trigger for migraines. But with working from home, I have the full ability to control my environment. So I can just pull up my blinds. I can just work in dark sometimes, or I can sometimes just, go up and then walk around the backyard if I really need that. So yeah, it's kind of like give and take for both, I suppose.
Yeah, and maybe a question for everybody here, and you people can answer in the chat. When working at the office, aside from the stress of the interaction with humans and everything, in terms of environment, what would be impacting you the most? Would it be the noise, the neon lights, or the smell of some colleagues? Or perfume. Sorry, my English. Which one? Maybe you can share in the chat for everybody. Which one do you think is impacting you the most? I would say here in Singapore, we smell or sun, or perfume. We don't have that. I never faced it. The office we have here is very peaceful. I wonder why. Maybe because I chose it. And it's relatively dark also, so we are lucky for that. But and maybe a question: if you put glasses for blue light at the office, do you look strange? Do people look strangely at you? Maybe the most difficult would be Angela. Angela, if you were to put that as a nurse moving around, and you had blue light blocking glasses, what would it? How would
I
it?
actually I have blue light blocking glasses in my prescription, so they're my everyday glasses. These are actually not those. I just threw these on because they're a little bit lighter. This is actually an old prescription, but these are a little bit lighter than the frames I have. But my new frames, they have the blue light blockers built into them.
And if you were to do what I do sometime in the office, which is going around with earmuffs, like the one you have on the construction sites, how would it be?
With earmuffs on? Oh my. I don't know. I haven't used them. I haven't used them.
Because it looks strange, to be frank. You see those people who are near from the planes, for example, with the big stuff on the, it looks like that. My kids call me Mickey Mouse when they put those. So maybe we can go through. Jess, I let you go through the votes. So who thinks? How many of us mentioned the more? Is it more smell? Is it more fluorescent lighting? Is it more the noise at the office for everybody?
Yep. So many responses from people in the webinar right now. I can see actually it's true for noises, light, smell, yeah, and perfume as well. Maybe this is something I need to be more aware because I do use perfume. Yeah, but it's a very light. Okay, it's good that when Francois asked really because it's not a trigger for him. So I think that's why I'm still here next to him. Yeah. All right. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. How about we move to the Q&A section? Yep. Yeah. So yeah. It's anytime you guys can just drop a message in the Q&A section, and if any specific panelist speaker that you want to ask, you also can indicate their name there. If not, we will just go through like an open discussion. Yeah. So right now I see one very interesting question. Okay, so it's about job interview, right? So in your own experience, when you get a job, do you mention this to the interviewers, or is it something that you have to declare with the company? Yeah, maybe we go with Joshua first. Oh, or Francois, would you like to say something?
I have a completely anecdotal point. Candidates to work on migraine, but he can mention they have migraine, yes, but that's not necessarily a rule. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not many company, supporting migraine like ours, right? So yeah, let's hear from Joshua. Essentially, you also change professions from here and there.
I haven't actually had a job interview since my migraines became chronic because I was already teaching Pilates and just transitioned into it. I think I would mention it at this point, even knowing that it might prevent someone from hiring me because it's such an important part of the way I live my life that I need to know if someone isn't going to be supportive before I would commit to working for a company.
Thank you, Joshua. How about you, Corinne?
Yeah, I actually did that because migraine for me is a big part of myself, and it is affecting my life and my work as well. So yes, I told my potential employee at that time, employer, not employer, I'm so sorry, English. Yeah, because for me, I guess it is important for them to know, and also for me to assess if they're open to make some arrangements during my migraine attacks in the future or not. So yeah.
Okay. And you, Angie?
I actually never disclosed to any job interview that I was a migrainer. I kind of just suffered in silence. And when it came time for me to have that conversation with my boss or manager, supervisor, whomever, I would have that private conversation with them and say, listen, this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm going through. This is what I have. And most of them were understood. I think I had like one or two that really did not. But for the most part, I would never disclose, because I was trying to get them under control as much as humanly possible. So I just wouldn't disclose that part.
Yeah. I mean, it would be, blessing if the employers or the future bosses really understand and show support. Yeah, but it could be, like a backfire that we disclose it, and then it could be a negative mark. But I guess if a company doesn't accept, the condition of, any condition that an employee is having, I don't think it's really deserve your contribution or your work in the company itself. So yeah, maybe Francois can chime in.
I must say also that even though the understanding of migraine, the awareness of migraine improved, there is still a bigger misunderstanding about what it is, how bad it is in terms of impact and suffering. You still have many people who make jokes and believe that this is just an excuse to avoid doing stuff. And also the fact that many people think, okay, you can just take a Panadol or a Tylenol or any of those OTC drugs and make it go away, or drink lots of waters, or put a banana peel off your forefront, or whatever strange solutions exist. That's really hurting the approach. I would say that in many cases, we're still in a point, and that's why we are here talking about awareness. We're still in a point where people understand better, accept better even depression, that somebody can really go out of due to depression. So we still have a lot to do to show that migraine is not something that you can easily control, and that it's having a big impact. One figure that people don't have in mind that you can feel free to reshare is that 40% of people with migraine have gone at least once to emergencies due to that. That's usually when mentioning that people understand that it's not a headache. That's one thing. After, we did not find, I think I'm checking research regularly, we did not find a way to really make people understand that it's really difficult to control and that it's not the fault of the person. I hope it will come. We can take inspiration again on depression, on other disease like that, where it's accepted that no, it's not the fault of the person when you're really, really down. That's it.
Thank you, Francois. All right. Yep. So as promised, I mentioned about the discount coupon code for our Migraine Body Plus. Yeah. So let us share with you the code now. Yep. So the code is called MAM50. I mean MAM is stand for Migraine Awareness Month, and then 50 is like 50% off for the MP Plus annual subscription. Yeah, and take note that the redemption is limited until 11 June of this year. Yeah, so you can take down this this code and apply this to our website so that you can get the discount. Yeah, we can leave it here for a while we are. Yeah.
It feels like teleshopping. It's fun. But yeah, it's the MB Plus. I don't know. It's today. This is what helps us in financing Migraine Body. We're still searching what is the right price. We're still developing on adjusting the developing new services, working with partners to make it better. To be totally open, today this is 3% of the users who are subscribing or who are helping us, and it corresponds to 50% of what is allowing us to finance Migraine Body without advertising or any other nuisance. And so we are very, very thankful to all of us who are supporting us with that. It allows us also to be independent from pharma companies, from anybody who could tell us, okay, push the app in this direction or the other. So we'll continue to develop it. So thank you a lot for everybody.
Thanks, Fransha. All right, so in the Q&A box right now, there is no more question, but we can open this to the crowd. You know, anyone would like to ask question, you can click on the raise hand button at the bottom of the screen, and then I will invite you to speak. Yep. Or you can drop the message in the chat function as well. Yep.
The message, by the way, the message were really, really interesting. I don't know if everybody had the opportunity to check the chat. It was we got many good comments. Some of those I really enjoy. Are really, there is no magic solution, and it was reminding me multiple times we're all unique, and that's actually a very important point. Is even though we're calling it migraine, to them migraine is more of combinations of symptoms, but behind the mechanism is unknown, and there are most probably many different types of cause behind it. So if we were to compare it to a disease with a specific virus, we would probably put many different names behind what we commonly put behind this naming of migraine. So also, please don't feel bad if something is working for somebody around you and it's not working for you, because again, there are many different types of migraines. We have some questions.
Yep. Yes. I saw more questions coming in now. Yeah, the first one is about so what would be the best information to share with our employers to educate them on the migraines? For this, maybe we can ask the employer here. I mean, next to me, yeah, Francois, could you share your opinion on this?
So the first thing with the employer, I would say first is how predictable do you think your migraines are? Are you usually capable of anticipating a bit of them? That's one. How long are they usually when you have it? Is it something which is that you usually can take control of in one day, or is it usually hitting you and putting you down for 5 days, including the post-room? That would be one thing. The more you can predict based on your pattern, the better. It may also be useful to share with your employer where you are in your migraine journey. Is it something where you've tried many, you're finding or you found already a prophylactic, and you know that you improved a lot, or you can continue to improve a lot, or are you still in the search? And same thing for the control. Do you have pretty much control every time, or is it something where once in a while it's out of control and you will have to, it will take longer? So that would be the part I would share. And then after, the other part is, do you potentially need some adjustments? So meaning taking care a little bit, being allowed to sometimes go around with glasses and with earmuffs and smell control or something like that? Or do you need to isolate yourself sometimes? because again, it's like many other conditions and specific hypersensitivities. How to handle, or how can the employer help you in handling your hypersensitivity? That would be the stuff. So everything which can help in predicting where you are and how predictable it is, and everything which can help you on the environment and in the work with your colleagues. Think about teamwork first. What can impact your colleagues and how can they help? That would be my point.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Francois. Yeah, how about you guys from the panelists? And do you have any comments on this, or yeah, I mean, you already shared with us your experience, you know, at work and interview, but yeah, anything? Yeah, Shisha? Yeah.
Yeah. As a manager of people, I did have an employee who had migraines, and I think that one of the important things to share is how you're affected, so that your manager, and in the United States at least, I would involve an HR representative, because depending on your relationship with your manager and how savvy that manager is, I see that the Americans with Disabilities Act has been mentioned in the chat. Not all managers understand that, and might not understand what they can ask you, or that they can't discriminate against you based on anything that any accommodations that you might need. So I think it's important to include someone from human relations, or whatever the equivalent of that might be, in your company, just to make sure that that's being explained to the manager.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Shisha. Yeah, and I saw a message in the chat. Yes.
Yeah, in the chat. QA.
There are more questions coming in both the chat box and the QA. Yeah, so I saw one quite interesting question in the chat box for Sweetie. Yeah, so being a doctor and having chronic migraine is difficult, especially with the night shift, 36-hour kind of shift. So working in the OT with bright lights make it disabling for me. Yeah, so what can I do? I think maybe I can invite Angie to share your so-called like suggestion, advice on this question.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So as a healthcare professional, I just read that question too, and I was like, wow. So I also used to work night shift and be on call, and worked in an area in the OR with very bright lights. I'm trying to think back to some of the things that I did. Like I had to take find a way to get relief, whether it was from another nurse, just so I could leave the area and go take like a breather and just take a break. And so what I would do is, when I would get someone to relieve me in my setting, I would go somewhere very, very dark, and just kind of like, because most of the times my eyes and the smells and my hearing was like affected the most. So I would try to give like my eyes a little bit of a break and just go somewhere dark. I would try to see if I could get relief just to go take my emergency medication, or just get out of the high stimmed environment that I was in, just to decompress for 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes at best before I jump back into it. I know that seems like a really short period of time, and if it's really to the point where you can't function and you can't take care of patients, if there's a way you can find someone to relieve you, and so that you could, because ultimately, you're taking care of patients, but you also have to take care of yourself as well, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't actively help others with their health and take care of them as well. If you can function with it, try to take like little breaks to give yourself some decompression and downtime. But if you find yourself that you can't function, then find someone to relieve you, to help you with that.
Yeah, that's very helpful to hear. Yeah, thanks, Angie. All right, so back to the Q&A box. We have a question here. Yeah, I believe Francois can take this question.
So, Kaylee, yeah, so you mentioned that you would like to be advocate and in your community about migraine disease in Quebec. So very happy to talk about it, even in French, separately. So yeah, that's an excellent idea. So Kelly, maybe you can contact me, write to Francois at healing.com, and let's talk about it separately to see how we can potentially help. There are some associations, but there are also things maybe we can do together with Migraine Buddy.
Thank you, Francois. Yeah, thanks for the question, Kaylee. Okay, let me do one last check to see if there's any more questions. So no more question right now in the Q&A. Yep. All right. Yep. And we have spent like more than an hour on this. Actually, I mean, it really doesn't feel it's that long time, but I guess I think we all enjoy a lot of the conversation and are having a great time here. So once again, thank you everyone for participating, and special thanks to our speaker here, Trissa, Karine, and Chi. It's really great to hear your stories and how you are coping with migraine, and I hope everyone here can find useful tips from you guys as well. And thanks for Francois being here with us today. So perhaps Francois, could you do like a final message to wrap up the section?
That's me. I just thank everybody. Thanks for organizing. I know it was it's a challenge, as it was one of the first. So let's continue. I think if people find it really useful, let's continue to do that because it's a nice complement, and I feel it can be very useful, and it can be very helpful to hear from others, to have those fast-paced interaction, and let's also, if people have subjects to share. We mentioned today talking about what is known, what is not known about drug efficacy. That could be one subject. For that, maybe we would invite a doctor we are working with. We can share also about migraine advocacy with people who are specialized in that. Maybe we could talk about it with our friends from Migraine World Summit in that case. So feel free to share the subjects, go to the team. You continue to use all the channels, the chats, emails, and we'll organize. Maybe in the next TOTD we could send a vote to select what you would be interested in for the next webinar. So thank you again. Thank you for your support, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.